Hey, welcome to the Culinary Studio at Jefferson Marketplace. My name is Cheeto, and today we're going to slow it down a little bit by cooking some basic proteins. And today we're going to do New York strip steak. We're going to do boneless chicken thigh, and for our vegetarian and vegan friends, we're going to do our tofu. We're going to do a firm tofu today, but there's also different tofus you can use for soups and all their applications. So we're going to start with our chicken, and we're going to get it seared up in a little bit here. All right, we got both our, actually there's 3 pieces of our dark meat boneless chicken thighs. You can use chicken breasts, obviously. I personally prefer dark meat because I think it's got a lot better flavor, got a little more fat content to it, so whenever you cook it, it doesn't dry out as quick as most meat. So we're going to start by seasoning it. Right now I got my pan heated up. We're going to do this about a medium-high temperature, but depending on your oven, or sorry, your stove, or your, depending on if it's gas or it's electric, it's up to you. It might be a medium heat for you if you have a electric stove that might be a little hotter. But today we're going to use it a little medium high. We're using gas. Now I've already got it preheating, and I'm using a non-stick pan because we're fancy over here at the cooking studio. But if you don't have a non-stick pan, that's fine. It works just as well on a regular steel pan. So let's get it started. So we're going to start with some generous amount of salt and pepper. Top. And what I'm going to use is a separate tong for handling my raw meats and proteins. You want to do that so you don't get sick by using the same tong for raw meats, and then when you pick it up, when it's done, you're going to have that raw meat juice on there. So I like to use a separate one, so I'm going to flip it, get both sides. I'm going to add a little bit of oil, about a tablespoon on here. And that oil is just a conduction tool for us to get heat onto the meat. It's going to get a good color over that. You could technically cook without this, but give it some oil and you get a little bit more color. So I'm about to do a little bit tablespoon on there. So I hear a little bit of sizzling here. Now it's time to go. There you go. So we're going to cook the one bottom side for about, I'd say 3 to 5 minutes, just depending on how thick that chicken thigh is for you, or chicken breast. But these are fairly thin, so I think it's about 2 or 3 minutes per side. And then what we're going to do is we're going to flip it about when it's 3/4 of the way done. We're getting some more noises here. That means the heat's getting up there. It's getting some color. Another thing you're seeing, if you can get that camera angle right there, we got some little beads of protein coming out from the side. Those are some good tells that we're getting up there towards probably halfway cooked right now. I'm going to twist this again and give it another look. Oh yeah, baby. So we're getting some of that color. Nice, beautiful color. I'm going to give it a little bit more. We're about halfway. We're about to get to 3/4 of the way done, and then we're going to do our quick flip. That second side's probably going to take about a minute, 2 minutes. But we'll take a temperature of it, and it'll be ready by then. So this basic recipe is just amazing, just for a lot of dishes that you can use for. You can finish this up and cut them up and put them into tacos. You can cut them up and put them in Alfredo sauce, and then put them on your pasta. What else? You can even cut them up, cool them down, make them chicken salad instead of getting regular boiled chicken. Just get more flavor out of that sear. So, all right, so we're almost there. I think we're about done. I'm going to take the temperature of this, and if we're not up to temp, then what we're going to do is put it back on there, obviously. What I'm going to do is wash my thermometer, because obviously if it's not up to temp, that the juices on there are sanitary, right? I'm going to take that out. I think we're just about ready. Take another temperature right away and not keep chatting. Oh, we're getting there. Getting up there pretty quick. You'll see it. Once it goes up between 10 degrees, like for every second, or every 3 seconds, that means it's on the money. I got 165, so that's good to go. Let that hang out there for a second. And I'm going to check the second piece of meat. And we're going to be done here. This one's going to be nice and good. Yeah, this one's jumping to 140 already, and then we're going to hit 165 here in a sec. So I'm going to take off my nice non-stick pan off the stove, off the flame, because one thing you don't want to do with these non-stick pans is to be cooking keep it on the heat while there's nothing on it. You do want to preheat it, but you don't want to keep it longer than what you need to. Sweet. So we got 165. So you know what? Let's move on to our steak. All right, let's cook this New York strip steak. So today's purposes, we're just going to be doing a really simple, well done, up to 160, 155 degrees, just so that it's all cooked all the way through and you still got some moisture left over there. So, and if for you, if you like medium rare, if you like medium well, you can look up online a chart on how to cook it at the specific temperature, and that's how you get it. A lot of chefs, they like to use the feel of the meat, but man, at home, just use the temperature, man, unless you want to be that super expert. But today we're going to keep it simple. So I got my pan getting heated up over here, but before I do that, you know, if you're at home and you don't have a really fancy stove, gas stove that's really high and you know, got really hot flame like we do in here, one thing that would help is getting a seasoned cast iron grill skillet. This guy will retain that heat. Whenever you put that piece of steak or even pork chop on there, it'll retain its heat, so you get that nice sear, and you can start hearing that applause like we talk about. So we're going to do this steak, season it just like we did with the chicken. Be generous with that salt. Flip it, and I still have my raw meat tongue. Oh, this is beautiful. Got a nice piece of fat on there. Delicious. We're going to be using our non-stick pan, but obviously this one you can use a regular pan for it. And we're going to use our ears, we're going to listen. We're going to use all our senses to figure out if this is cooking the right way. And that sounds like it is. Put my dishes away. One thing you're going to notice with some pieces of meat, especially pork chops, they tend to poof up. I don't know if you were younger and if you ever fried bologna or salami, it does the same thing. So what I used to do is cut little holes. We're not going to cut little holes on this one. We're going to give it a little help by pressing it down if we start seeing it kind of poof up. So I kind of see it sort of poofing up. I got some bubbling going on here. So what I like to use is a little bit of weight. You don't want to use like a pound to get it squeezed. What's going to happen is going to squeeze out all the juices. So I'm going to help it out a little bit by putting this pan to flatten it out. And what happens with that is I get a nice sear all throughout the meat, not just on the edges. Because once you get that poofing up, it's not making contact with the pan like evenly. You're going to have just a little ring of searing, and it's not really the best thing to do. So we're almost there. I'm going to take a peek underneath it too, make sure it's nice and color. Oh, there you go. And that's what we're looking for right there. A nice, beautiful color. And then for a steak, we're aiming at about 155, 160 degrees. Typically, 160 is your well done for beef. But I'm going to go at 155. I'm going to let it rest, and when those juices redistribute, it's going to be nice and, how do I say it, moist, right? So we're almost there. Oops. Oh yeah, that other side's got nice, good color. So you can serve this with obviously some people like to use A1 sauce, but you can cook up your own teriyaki sauce, put it on the side. You can even cut these up just like our dark meat chicken, do it for tacos, or you're doing your like burrito bowl with the rice and, you know, cilantro, pico de gallo, and all that stuff. This would be excellent for that. So what we're looking for is, what we see here is all this protein coming out. It's a good sign. Also, you'll see them on the lips. See all this right here? That's a good sign that we're probably done. And by putting a little bit of weight on it, what happens is we're actually decreasing the cooking time, because that heat is really getting evenly placed on the steak. So 155 looks like we're going to be there the way it's quickly getting up to 140. We're going to be there. Sweet. We're going to use our clean tong. And we are right at 160. Beautiful. And that's all done. Sweet. All right, we're going to cook our tofu, and we have about a 4-ounce, 5-ounce piece over here. What I'm going to do is put our Cajun seasoning on it that we use to blacken. At the Brick City Deli at Jefferson Marketplace, we have a blackened tofu sandwich that we like to serve. It's nice and bold, and it's got a lot of spices and flavors to it. And you could use just salt and pepper to do this, but with tofu, it's all about mirroring the flavors you put on. What it does is it just takes the flavor you put in. You're gonna get out what you put into it, basically. So what we're gonna do is get our blackening spice. So I'm gonna get another piece of plate. Whenever you're putting any blackening seasoning, you want to apply it pretty generously. I got my pan heated over here. This is just basic Cajun seasoning. A few things I learned about blackening spice. There's not one main spice that you need. It's a mixture of, you got like paprika. You can even get some cayenne in there, but you just look up a basic blackening spice, and it's amazing. This is something you can use for putting together for if you want some tofu tacos or tofu burrito, or if you're doing like tofu po' boy. You got nice Cajun flavors going on in here. And some nice colors too. It's fun to take that boring piece of protein and turn it into something beautiful. So I'm going to rinse my hand off a little bit here. And we're going to get started. So I like to pack those seasonings on there pretty well too, because we don't want any seasoning kind of slipping away. This is a very tricky process to blacken spices. So you don't want you want to keep an eye on it the whole time, obviously, but you don't want your heat way too high. We're going to start with about a medium-high heat, and we're going to add a little bit of oil. And with tofu, you do want to use preferably a non-stick pan. If you don't, and if you have just regular non-stick coating pan, you want to season your pan so that all your seasonings and some of the tofu doesn't get ripped off. So I'm going to put it on there. And obviously, we don't need a raw tong separately for this one, because you've never had salmonella from tofu before, right? So we're going to put it on there. Bump up the heat. And on this one, you don't want such a high applause or a loud, searing and all that stuff going on. Turn it up a little bit. So at this point, I'm probably at high now, but I might have to turn it down a little bit later on. But yeah, what we're working with is extra firm tofu. You want to use extra firm just because it stays together, whether you're grilling it or you're pan searing it like this. It's nice. It's a lot more beefier, so it holds up to all the things you do with it. But if you're just using it for soup, you can use the soft tofu or even extra soft tofu. It's got more of a delicate texture to it when you eat it in the soup, like a miso soup. So I'm gonna check out that one side carefully without scratching up my pan with these metal tongs. What we got here is a ton of color going on, and so I'm going to flip it. You can also smell those spices. Once you get a little bit, you're going to start sneezing too, but you're going to smell a little bitterness in the air. That's about time to flip it. I'm going to add a little bit more oil. And unlike the steak, this tofu is going to stay nice and flat. It's not going to poof up on you. If it does, call the police, because that thing is alive and deadly, man. You better throw it away. So I'm going to get all the sides. And I do this just because I like presentation, man. I mean, I like to have people see something and be like, wow, I really want to eat that. See the other side. Oh, that's looking good. So you don't have to take the internal temperature of this, but obviously you want it to warm all the way through, so when someone eats it, they're not biting through a cold piece of tofu. So we're going to put it on our finishing plate here. And what you could do with this, like I said, get it chopped up, keep it whole, put it on a sandwich. And you see all that smoke going on there? That's just part of the game when you're blackening. This is just about as dark as you want to get. You can get a lot darker than this if you want, but since this is tofu, I don't want to dry out the tofu. So what we're going to do is cut it up, serve it up however way you want it, and you can also serve it in all kinds of salads too. Make it like a Southwest salad or a Cajun salad. So cool. All right, so thanks for joining us today and learning all the basic proteins and how to cook them and prepare them in a few simple ways. But I challenge you to try different proteins like shrimp, even pork chops, or even items that have bones in them. And I want you to just experiment, because that's how you really learn how to cook these things properly. And so you're going to burn some pieces of meat, and it's okay. But if you like this, subscribe to our social media sites like Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at OU Dining. And we'll see you then.